Hello and good morning, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Reaper Pro-Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy and Justin. How you doing, guys? How you doing? Well, I hope you like it if you have it, Pendrake. If you don't like it, you should find another home for it. You should always rehome models you don't have the love for. Coffee, yeah, I know, right? My pillow murdered my neck last night. Don't you hate that? So I've decided to destroy it and got myself a new pillow. Ordered a new pillow anyway. It's got to come to the Reaper shop eventually, Agent Marvel. It's just when, right? When. Hello, hello, hello. So let's look at our dude here. So I'm a little concerned that the heat effect won't translate very well once we get the metallics in. What I'm going to do, I did decide to grab some scorched metal, I think, and I'm going to actually do these, the bands here and the ram skull with metallic, but metallic that's been really darkened down. So let us grab our metallics. Because we're all metal today. Like, sadly, I don't have any, like, Megadeth to play, but, you know. I guess Metallica, you know, would be appropriate. I do have some Metallica somewhere. Let's see here. Let's look at our choices, our things, and what we used last time. We're using all old school metallics for this one, guys. By which I mean all core metallics. So none of the new Bones Flakes for this. And, never, like, count out the old metallics, especially if you're looking to do, like, more precise work, if you've got to do a lot of detail work. These aren't as shiny as the Bones metallics. The Bones metallics use a bit of newer technology, but the fact that they're not as, like, super shiny means that it actually is, I think, a little easier to suggest intricate detailing with them when you're shading and highlighting them. And this golem has a lot of intricate detail on his metal areas. That's a lot of why I chose to go with the with these particular metallics instead of Bones. Now, I think if you're doing larger, like when we did the dwarf, let me grab him. The dwarf was actually a mix, but on his, oh no! My camera is it's very near the edge because I want to keep good posture, and so it, like, is very vulnerable to my elbow. But if you recall, we used actual Bones metallics on the dwarf for the brighter metal. Because these plates are very large, using a very shiny metallic on them makes a lot of good sense and tends to add to the effect. Though shinier metallics can be harder to photograph, but on stream that's not so much of a concern. Oh, let's see here. I'm actually not a metal girl, Valendar. Like, there are a couple of like harder rock bands that I like. I like Queensryche. I liked Metallica. You know, I appreciate that. But when it gets really hard, I like something danceable. Like, I really like dance beat, so I tend to like when I went to dance clubs, it was goth industrial all the way. So that gives you an idea. There really isn't a difference. Like, a 3D print, guys, is just a miniature that's been sculpted a different way. And the advantage with a 3D print, if you have the skill as a sculptor, like, the difference is going to be in the sculptor. It's not in the medium at all, in my opinion. Like technically, all of, like, Games Workshop stuff is digitally done and has been for several years, many years now. You know, and so painting that is like, and that's styrene, right? So it's like the medium and the sculptor and the, like, it's just, I really feel like it isn't the medium. 3D print versus Reaper model, there isn't a difference. Like, the stuff that Bobby Jackson is sculpting now in 3D is better, if anything, I think, has improved because it allows you to do small detail, right? To do really intricate small detail. So I think that Bobby's stuff is very comparable between the two, except that maybe the new stuff has some smaller detail in it that is more able to do in 3D. Like, I think there's a difference in sculpting. I think that there is possibly Hey, GVD. Thanks for that resub. 15 months. Awesome. Thank you so much. There may be a difference in that 3D sculpting. It's kind of like YouTube and it removes the gateway, like where before to be a sculptor you either had to start your own miniatures company, which involved money and resources, or you had to be a sculptor and submit stuff to an established miniatures company who usually had a stable of sculptors they were already working with, so you had to be a certain level. But I do think there is a lot of stuff being sculpted now that is maybe not quite as good. Like, you're gonna run into sculptors who are doing decent work but not like super top quality work just because they can, which doesn't mean their sculpts are bad. It just means that maybe they're not as intricate or not as involved, or maybe they don't go together quite as well. So you've got anybody can put their sculpt out online now. Anybody. So you're going to see a big quality breadth that you didn't really necessarily see, except back in the 80s when everybody was starting a miniatures company. Then you did see that. But I mean, otherwise if I'm painting a 3D print like the Gemstone Dragon, or a Bones Black like this, or a metal model like I'm going to be using in my prep video for Patreon later today, you either prime it or you don't, and you paint it. They're miniatures. They're just not, I don't really... No, I mean, Reaper plastic is different in that you can paint directly on it. That's the big difference. The big difference is the first coat, as Rhonda says. Everything else you have to prime. Prime your 3D prints, prime your resin, prime your metal, prime your GW styrene. All these things need primer. Bones was the pioneering material that does not need to be primed. That's why it's a great entry-level material for people to get into the hobby with if they don't want to mess with spray primers and all that. Not that priming was ever that hard to begin with, but it removes a step and makes it more accessible. It's just like removing a click from your website and making something more accessible and easier to get to for your web consumer. And yeah, durability is it, but we weren't talking about that, that we could go into the differences between the materials, sure. But as far as to paint on, which was the specific question, there is no difference. But yeah, I do bones are great entry level because they also are very durable. But painting wise, honestly, every painter is going to tell you different, but I prefer resin. As far as to paint on, I find that with straight up 3D prints, there's always some cleanup that the person didn't do. There's always some sort of texture that, I had to remove little tiny stubs that were still on here. There's always some additional cleanup there that, just takes time, and it's not valuable time. I could be painting now, but I have to clean up this model instead. Some people enjoy cleaning models, so that doesn't make a difference to them. It's more durable as far as if you drop it, it won't break as easily, Vimanaqua. That's the brittleness versus flexibility. That's, your things that are going to break or impact metal or snap off resin, the Reaper model is just going to bounce. So, and I don't know, Bones USA is going to be a little bit more prone to snappage if you really dropped it from, onto a cement floor from up high, and hit just right. Then you might see snappage. I don't know though. I haven't really abused, my Lisette to see. But yeah, right. Exactly. We made Bones. We marketed Bones originally because it was an easy, you pull it out of the package and you paint it. We made it originally for paint and take, and then Ed saw the potential of the medium and he made it a thing with the first Bones Kickstarter, and we've been making it a thing ever since. So now it's iterating, right? Now we're iterating on it with Bones USA and Bones Black first, and now Bones USA. So, but it's not superior or inferior, really. It's usually the amount of cleanup that you've got to do, as you say, the impact friendliness of it, whether you have to prime it or not. And if you prime the Bones, that's fine, but you don't have to. So. Yeah, that's the hard one, Grey Wolf. That is the one thing that my choosing colors for your mini class can't do. I can't go into your head and give you an instinctual, how to find this color. Although, really, the way to do it is to start learning your paint line. If you group all your hues together, on your wall or in your box or your whatever, and then you're like, oh, I need a green that's like this green, and then you get out all your greens and you spread them out. You know, you can figure out which one is closest. But learning mixing, learning how to temper that green if you don't have that green that you need, that's different. It's a bit tighter, I think, Xandercles. Like, it's not like, if I compare Lizette to this, the Bones Black is great for this model, but I think that the Bones USA has even better detail for fine detail. Like, Bones USA is comparable to resin, and resin is the highest quality in my opinion. In David's opinion, also, he said that he was interested in Bones USA. He was surprised to be interested in Bones USA because he's not a fan of the bones in general, but he likes he really likes Bones USA because he thinks it's comparable to resin, which is kind of what we both really like. What did I do with my glasses? All right, I may need to go and find glasses. 1 second. Yeah, I somehow ate those. 1 second while I grab my other pair, guys. So I've been all over the place with moving, with organizing moving, like getting in my headspace for moving. And so my glasses have been going all over the place while I'm reading my phone. Right, just add white. And if you want really frosty, then add in some moonstone. Maybe do a moonstone. But I mean, it's not... Do logical progression, Grey Wolf. So if you have Twilight Blue, start with like 5 drops of Twilight, 1 drop of pure white. Then go to like maybe 3 to 1, then maybe 2 to 1, then 1 to 1, you know. Or you can go from 2 to 1 to 1 to 2, you know. Use a progression. And remember, the more different your colors are that you're mixing, the more you have to thin it, especially because you're with pure white. But yeah, Bones USA, the brittleness is what gives it that additional resolution, though. Detail level. Sharpness. You can't, this is like trying to find a paint that is, that has good adhesion, but also covers. You can't have both extremes in one product because the very chemistry of the thing is what makes it what it is. So it is the softer coating that makes it cover. It is the harder coating that results in less coverage. So with Bones USA and plastics, like these plastics, it is the brittleness factor is intrinsically tied to the ability to produce really fine detail. You cannot have both. You can't have a very rubbery, flexible figure and get that tightness. Correct, Valinar. What helps with that, if trying to use a visual reference, what helps is opening up an image editor like Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you're using, and using the eyedropper tool to figure out a general swatch that looks about right. Then look at your paint collection and try to find that's close to that. I'm going to get some scorched metal out here, and we're going to get that ram's head and these bands kind of colored in. I'm not going to do... probably not going to do any highlighting on them. I might do some shading with this scorched metal because this is so superheated. Scorched metal, for those who don't know, is actually a color in armor making. Like, this is our brown, what I call our brown metallic, kind of our burnt bronze or brass metallic. But it actually is a color that shows up on steel armor when you put a coating of linseed oil over the top to seal it against rust, and then you essentially bake that on. To give the armor more, to help it resist rusting and corrosion effects. And that is the exact color it turns. I've been in an armor shop and I saw a piece of like an elbow or a shoulder. I can't remember which one it was, but it was exactly the color of this metallic, which I had, kind of yoinked from Games Workshop's Tin Bits. And sure enough, that's what that metallics color comes from. That is the exact color when you put that linseed oil or other oil coating over the top of the steel, and then you scorch it on, essentially. You get that color. So it is actually a scorched metal color. So I'm going to just put it on here, and I may shade it, but I don't want to highlight it because I want this dark to stay in. I want the contrast to stay in. Oh, Infinity, yeah. They're beautiful models, but tiny but mighty. I mean, I have some, but I've just not... Yeah, those reward a very, very good paint job. They don't... Infinity generally doesn't look good with a rush job because they have such small details. I mean, it's beautiful work. They're beautiful models. If you're looking for gorgeous sci-fi, 28 millimeter, they gotcha. But they are very, very tiny details sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it works for that somewhat, although the flake is slightly different. So if you're looking to do that ever in the future, this is that color. Valandar. Because Timbits was one of my favorites. It doesn't necessarily... I mean, you can use it as an undercoat for gold. It may not be the best undercoat for gold because it actually uses a different flake color. That's what I'm actually trying to say. It does not use a gold flake. So there are two color components to metallics, guys. Two components. One is the pigments that you actually put in, and one is the actual color of the flake. The color of the flake has a very heavy impact that you can minimize to a certain point by loading pigment in, but when you load too much pigment in, then you lose the shine. Even when you load just a moderate amount of pigment in, you lose the shine. So you kind of have to balance what you're trying to do with color with the finish when you're creating metallics. That's why the shiniest metallics tend not to cover so great, because flake itself is translucent most of the time. That's why using a dark base coat is recommended. But if you put too much pigment in to try to get better coverage, you lose the shininess of the flake. So that's why metallics, again, it's one of those things where it's like the nature of the beast. There are some exceptions, but with those exceptions, even like this color does not have a ton of shine to it. It's a metallic, but it's not a super bright metallic, right? These little bands that I'm doing. This is Scorched Metal 9125 Val. It's a really pretty metallic. I love it. I think it makes a better undercoat for copper if you're going to start, but I don't tend to use a dark undercoat for my metallics anymore, like a dark metallic undercoat, because for me, it doesn't seem like quite right to me, because in the shadows is when you don't see the shine. So I don't use it that way. But one way you could use this if you're doing a brighter bronze, copper, or gold is not even as a shadow, but as a base coat, because it covers well. It itself doesn't have a lot of shine to it, and it covers well, so it could get you that first step. Most do bones metallics. Most of the bones metallics do not. They use newer technology. But yeah, mica flake is non-toxic, and generally, if you're gonna see it, like you even see it in like skin products, like the sparkly lotions or the sparkly shampoos. Yeah, same type of stuff. Pretty much inert because it's rocks. I'm gonna get some walnut so I can trim up and neaten up my lines here. Just want to make sure that I've got some delineation. Like I lost my line there. actual metal flakes tend to react poorly with water, like are actually reactive with water. So you won't usually see them in anything other than a solvent line unless it is a metal that is friendly. But in general, when you're going to the flake company website, they are very clearly marked because you can get a bad chemical reaction, i.e. explosive chemical reaction, if you mix the wrong flake with water. So they are working on trying to get like true metals that are stable, like that they essentially buffer, like chemically weirdly change, so that they can get essentially like more true metal like effects. But last I checked, like when I was working at Reaper, actually, I was chatting with the sales lady about this, and she's like, yeah, it's stable for about 6 months, and then it's not. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work for us so much. It works for an industrial company if they're trying to just put a coat on the wall and be done. It doesn't work for us where people are keeping our paint in bottles. Oh, even iron, like there are all sorts, like Grey Wolf, in general, metal flake, water, no. Either oxidation or explosion. I learned this this was pounded into my head because it can be dangerous to mix. So yeah, if you want a metal flake, then you must use solvents in general. And it's why they can get more realistic metallics with solvent-based paint. I'm just trimming up my lines here from where I went over the edges. I want this essentially this area to kind of be done so that I can just move on to other stuff. So I'm just doing my touch-ups now, so I don't... When you have a model that's this big, guys, if you're used to, like, waiting until everything is done, soft done, and then going back over the whole model, sometimes I recommend not doing that with big, complicated models, because inevitably you're going to miss stuff. So for me, I tend to, like, touch up and neaten up areas, like, as I get them done. That way, when I go for my final work through to make sure that everything looks nice, I have less of a chance of missing something because I probably addressed it earlier. Oh, I'm keeping the heat effect. I just, it may not work very well with the metallics. We've committed to it. I spent like, an hour and a half on it. We're not going to dump it. Because I don't have an idea that I like for what to do instead. But this will be a good example if you guys later see that, it doesn't really work to do a faux effect with a real effect. Yeah, like I said, Valendari, it's bad mojo. Just trust me here. I researched this stuff. But yeah, if you want to go and like look at all the toxic things that can occur or explosive things that can occur by putting actual metallic flakes into water solution for long periods of time, feel free. All right, I need to mix up my base. You know what? I kind of decided, too, that I wanted to, instead of going, that I might use scorched metal for all of the stuff I left dark. I'm thinking that. So I'm going to do that. Want to show you guys a trick. So here what I just did is I took a big brush full of water, and I ran it all around the top of this well to essentially make a water buffer all around the edges of this metallic. What that does is if you're using a well palette, as you know, metallics can stick to that really, really well. So you putting that water buffer in there keeps those edges from really gluing on if you do it early enough. And it doesn't really affect the metallic in the middle because of the nature of metallic paints, unless you mix it in, obviously. But my metallic in the middle is still pretty thick. So that's just a quick trick that I've got for you. If you learn nothing else on today's stream, you'll at least have learned that quick trick. I'm going to try to put the scorched metal in on this guy up here. And see if I like it after everything is said and done. Because I don't want to really make the entire helmet. Like, I want some contrast, really, for the face. Normally, you'd want to make the face lighter, but in this case, I think I'm going to go darker. We'll see. It's in shadow, so... because this helmet curves out over the face. Too dark, Val. If you're trying, I would mix some gray liner in with your shadow color. When you're working with really, really pale hair like that, and any really, really pale color, your darkest shadow really needs to be more of a medium tone. It doesn't want to be dark. So take whatever your bone shadow is so far and mix it with gray liner to get kind of a medium dark gray and use that. But never use a near black color to line a very, very pale, unless you're really like looking to, but if you're doing like braids and stuff like that, like you really don't want to do that. That's too dark. When you're working with really pale, delicate colors, there is definitely too dark. All right, so we're just going to do this for now, and if I decide to try to do something else later, I will. But right now, that's how it's going to sit. And I want to alternate. Essentially, I needed two different colors of metallic. I wanted to kind of alternate, kind of like we did on the dwarf. I feel like that gives a very pleasing effect. And both of these are still kind of, you know, bronzy. So cool, Mika. Yeah, I like the entire Greek Odyssey. That's one of the only things I bought from Bones 5 because I really like the models. This is a very, very intricate model. I can see how this is going to make some of you guys like kind of go, you know. But one thing you can always do is you can choose, like I am, to differentiate areas by putting different metallics over them. And then we are going to bring in some, you know, some corrosion and tarnish and verdigris also, but I would start with blocking in areas. Then we'll bring some of this dark green back in. Yeah, this is interesting. I may need to do these as heat vents. We'll see. I may. Yeah, we're going to lose it. We're covering it all over. But that green is one that I will be coming back in with over the bronze for shading and verdigris. So. Depends on the person. Like Sephiroco, I think that start dark, work light is a good way to start out with mini painting. I think that once you get your paint consistency down, then start in the middle, work down and up works a little better. But there are still some things, like I did dark to light for a long time, and then I found that I was much better equipped to do middle than down than up. There are still things that I start dark, work light on, though. Skin tones, for example. I will usually start dark, work light on skin tones. Just because I noticed that I had a problem pushing my contrast enough on skin tones otherwise. Well, you would need it to be, like, I wouldn't use green stuff. I think I would use more like a milliput or Aves, because you need this to be durable. And green is flexible and will probably break off your pin with wear. Crows. Yeah, you want to work on your weaknesses. You don't want to always work around your weaknesses. You want to work on them, because everything in this hobby can be learned. Like, you can always improve. I don't care who you are. So you should work on your weaknesses and play to your strengths is the correct, I think, the correct way to think about it. Don't always avoid your weaknesses, or you're never going to get better there. This is a glow effect. This is metallics. We're doing all metallics here. But we did a kind of a hot glowing effect there. So I wanted to try it. And if you're reading it as metallic, then indeed it has failed. Just as I said. This is a a like textbook example of when I tell you guys don't mix NMM and metallics, or don't mix fake effects with real effects. Why they don't work. Because people will glom onto the real effect, and your fake effect will look like something you never intended. So I'm illustrating that here. But you can do it. I know you can do it, Grey Wolf. I know you can. Like, you've no idea the people that I've seen, like, teleport themselves to, like, fantastic heights of painting they never thought they would reach. Like, all it takes is just, you know, a little bit of practice. And believing you can do it. Like, try things. Don't always avoid the hard stuff. You will sit and stay if you always avoid stuff that you're uncomfortable with. I'm going to just leave that green, I think. I would like to line that, though. Yeah, it's probably not going to have corrosion, water corrosion there because it's too hot. So I'm going to line this. So now we're going to think about things that make sense. What causes the green verdigris is oxidation with water. But this is right next to a super hot chest panel. So any water that gets close to this is going to come off in steam. And it's not going to have time to sit and create oxidation. So there I can make a hard shadow between the collar and the heated parts, because I don't want to keep any green there because it doesn't make sense. Morning Basement. Yeah, Safaroko, that's how I got better. Like, that's how I got to be good, was that I would try to do something. I would try to push myself on some little feature on every model, even if it was a gaming model. I would try to do, like, eyes really well, or I would try to do the cape really cool, you know. And over time, that adds up, even if you are painting a lot of gaming stuff that you need to get done fast. I'm going to go under here as well and shade that in with some walnut. So we're crisping up the areas around the bronze metallic here. And then I'll go and do the ram's head. And then I think I want to hit the shoulder pads, and then we'll start to do some of the weathering on this bronze metallic, I think. I don't know. I think puppies are a lot like kids, and you guys are older than kids, Pendrake. But if you want to be stuck, you see, because being stuck sounds even worse. I think that being stuck, I don't like the sound of being stuck. And the reason that I don't like the sound of being stuck is it implies that you have no control. And you always do. You always have a choice. So that's why I don't like that term, stuck. I'd rather say sit and stay implies that if you want to sit and stay, that's your choice. If you just want to stay where you are, and that's valid. Like, if you really are happy with your current painting style and it totally suits your needs because you're painting like board games for your family to play, or you're playing, you just don't want to, you're not really motivated to paint anything other than a decent paint job that makes you happy, like, do it. But a lot of people on this stream seem to want to get better, even if only in small ways. And the first way to do that is to realize that it's your choice. It's your choice whether you want to get better. The first thing to remember is that you can always put kind of a muted color for peasant clothing. There are plenty of natural dyes that peasants would not have had to pay for. Basement. So you could totally use soft blues and greens and reddish browns and like even brownish reds. There was a lot of natural dyes. There's a decent yellow that you get from birch. So, like, keep in mind that for peasant clothing, it's not always brown. Like, especially not if you're painting peasants who are, like, at market, where maybe they wore, like, festival clothing or whatever. So I never stuck to just brown for my peasants. But then I was also painting some agents or some ancient models. And so I did some research into like what colors you would see in Viking clothing and stuff. The easiest way to mute a color is to add a little bit of its opposite. Mute a green, add a tiny touch of red, and vice versa. Same with orange and blue. Same with yellow and purple. But, I mean, you can look up, like, ancient dyes, and you'll see examples. Like, there'll be people with it doing their historical blogs, and they'll very helpfully have posted, like, yarn, pictures of yarn that's been dyed with various things, using various stuff to set. I forget what the term for the stuff they use to set. Mordant? I can't remember. There's a technical term for the setting agent that sets a dye in fabric. All right, that's looking nice and crisp. Yeah, Mordant. Wow, I actually remembered Chibi. Holy crap. Ooh, I don't feel like my brain is that good today. All right, here. Now I want to mix up I need to get my ram's head. That's right. We need to get the ram's head, then we'll mix up our bronze. And we'll do a little bit more. I was thinking actually, guys, that his skirt is going to be purple leather. Would that be too much for you? Like, maybe the mage who made him is totally fabulous. Like, because I'm very inclined. I'm very inclined to make this actual leather skirting. Oh, yeah, you do SCA. Cool. Yeah, I had a lot of friends in Madison and who were in SCA. Back when I was up there. All right, ram's head. Right. You know what? Okay, I want to refresh. I see no reason not to do it. If you're spending like 10,000 gold pieces on your golem, are you not going to like make him like totally fabulous? Because, I mean, I'm keeping this purple up here. Just letting you know. You can't except to mix in a clear bright war shadow. Clear brights are made to mix into colors to make them more bright, but you can never get more bright than a clear bright. But it totally works, like, if you like Urgathoa red, but you wish it was a little bit more bright red, then you could just add a drop of clear red. That's why we make them. That's a large use of the clear brights. Well, we're going to have purple up top, so it makes sense to repeat the purple on the model. I mean, there isn't a lot of room to do, like, texture for it. It would just be, it's just an accent color. This is, I don't think I want to do, like, we're already having a problem with our fake and our real. Textures are fake unless they're sculpted on. Because it's like an effect you're adding. Like, these are currently very smooth. If I saw this golem across a room, I wouldn't necessarily see any leather texture. It would just be, you know, kind of have a sheen on it. People have, I mean, scratches and dings are pretty easy. Vimo and Aqua, people have asked me to do that. The problem is really, well, one thing, I just kind of wasn't in the mood. And two, the real reason, I don't know. I mean, I can do some stretches here, but I'm not going to do the whole fist like it's been really, really scratched out. Because I kind of wanted him to look a little fresher. I kind of wanted a clean and spiffy golem. With some verdigris and stuff on him. But I'm not thrilled with that idea. I mean, scratches and dings are super easy. You just have to make the metal a lot brighter. It works only if you darken down and deaden down the rest of it. So if we put a lot of tarnish and verdigris all over this ram head, and then we made it really bright just on like this area, and we did some lines and dents, then we could make it look scratched up. But everything else, you need that contrast, though, for that. Like, you need to... Unfortunately, I would show you Soldier. You know, I took him... Well, I guess Mr. Grumpy's a good enough example. But you need to be severely weathering your metal in order to get the dinged-up effect. So if you're painting all your metal really pretty, then you don't have any contrast to show. But if you're painting your metal really, really darkened and dinged up, so see, like, I started Mr. Grumpy, see that bright silver slash and these little bright, you know, the actual color of the metal? I started this entire surface with that. But then I darkened it down with all this rusty and muddy and all that kind of crap. So you've got to do that in order to get these bright dings and scratches and dents to show up. So in order to get that effect on the golem's fists, you really need to tarnish and muddy and darken everything up and do an effect like that in order for those really bright areas to have the contrast that you need. So, I mean, I don't know that I want to do that on this. Like, I don't know that just, like, we'll see. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, though, guys. Like, if I don't feel like doing it, like, on this stream, like, I'm probably going to avoid it, and I will instead I'd rather grab a model that has, like, a nice plain breastplate and do it on that for you than to try to do it on something so intricate like this. When I have a model with a lot of intricacy, I tend to like to go really clean on it because that brings out those details. Muddying everything down so you can't really tell that it's a ram's head, I don't really like that idea, so... But that, Mr. Grumpy is an example of how to do it, Viva Aqua. It was green. All of the areas that were green I'm going over it with bronze. All the areas that are walnut, I'm going over with the scorched metal. Purple areas are just like blocked in to remind me that, hey, this is here and you need to figure out what color it is. Except for the crest, which is really going to be purple. So yeah, if I was going to weather something, I wouldn't weather something with this many details on it, I think. It tends to, like... I'm trying to explain, like, kind of the philosophy behind my thinking on this. But it's like, if something has a lot of really nicely sculpted details and the battle damage... Like, in order for me to feel right about battle scarring this ram's head... I'd want to take a knife to it. Like, I'd want to seriously ding it up. So that it was damaged. When I see a sculptor put time into, like, a really cool detail, I tend to want to bring out that detail instead of bringing it back. So... yeah, well, always remember that everything in miniature painting is contrast, guys. So, Vimanaqua, if you want a really, like, if you want something to show up as really battered and bright and shiny, then it makes sense that first you have to make it dark and dirty and dingy. Because contrast. Always contrast. Whether it's in darks and lights, or different colors, or... Oh, I chipped off my nose there. My ram nose. Oh, I see. I got a little shaving on there. It was not chipped. I get that shaving off of there. There. Yeah, I always feel bad when people ask about stuff and I can't really or don't want to really show it. But my heart's not really in that on this model. I think it's going to be... I mean, hopefully it's instructive enough to do, like, the shaded metallics and, like, some verdigris on the rest of the model. If it isn't, then we'll stop the model and move on to something else. That is the danger of these big minis, is that there will come a point where maybe it's boring to you guys. And I can put it aside. This is the danger of dragons. And I really like this model, but that doesn't mean that I need to paint the entire thing on screen. So if it does get to the point where we feel like we're not learning anything else, we can switch off of it. It's the problem with the Fire Giant, too, is it just got to the point where it was very repetitive. Whereas a small model tends to have... a lot of different areas in a small area, so it's much easier to paint a different thing or a different, type of thing and finish the model in good time. So I kind of struggle with these big models on stream just because they take forever when you're doing them in hour-and-a-half chunks. I have no idea, Crows. I wasn't keeping up with all of the additions. I think you can assume that anything that did not get finished for Bones 5 will simply show up in the next Bones. So I'm trying to force my by adding in this metal, I'm trying to kind of force the metallics and the glow effect to interact nicely. And it does look a little bit more real. It does look a bit more glowy now that I've colored in some of this dark flat stuff with metallics. So we'll see. Jury's still out. We'll see how it carries by the end of the project, whenever that ends up being. But we can still see the shape of the ram's head, and that was my worry. So shining mithril would only work with silver metallics, Agent Marvel. It has a little black in it. And so that's going to green out a gold. So I would get pearl white. If you really are looking to highlight like gold, bronze, copper, get pearl white. Because, yeah, mithril it has that black in it, and it will not act as well. Well, yeah, but probably, as I was saying, probably not textured. Like, I'll make it purple pendrake, but I don't think I'm going to do a leather texture on it. It's just, like, the scale again. I mean, I don't know. It's got those rivets in there. Like, I'll maybe do, like, a belt texture, so maybe fray the edges. I could see doing that. But then I almost don't want to go purple. Because the purple is just going to look weird when you weather it. So color choices that you make, you know, also ask yourself what you're going to do with it. Because when leather weathers, it tends to go yellow, which is a very counterintuitive pick on purple. So I'd have to question what I was going to use to weather the edges on a purple leather. And if I could really make it look right, or if it would end up looking like cloth. Because if you don't go with that leather color underlying when you are weathering your leather, then it doesn't read as leather. Like, people do look for visual cues subconsciously as to what a surface is. And I don't like the thought of doing that. So if we're gonna do an actual, like, kind of weathered leather, pardon me, I just noticed I missed some little bits, so I'm doing those while we talk. So yeah, if we were gonna go and do actual leather texture on these flanges things, I would do a belt texture, because that's what they are. So they'd kind of be cracking from the sides in. But that means that's going to expose the underlying leather, and there's definitely a color for that. So I would probably not use the purple at that point, and I would go and use a reddish brown, if that makes sense. Yeah, Vimanakwa, it's cool. I just always try to take you guys' requests or suggestions seriously. Sometimes I just don't feel them, so I'm just gonna, like, be kind of like, I don't feel it, so I'm gonna, like, not on this model, maybe on a future model. Sometimes if I don't have a real strong concept behind a mini, then I'll just go ahead and just, you know, say, sure, let's flip it on its head. But this guy has already got, like, you know, kind of a big challenge on him between the fake and the real. So I have to try to make everything work together. I don't know, Pendrake. I want it to be an accent color. There are so few places to put an accent color on this model because it is going to be solid metal. That's why I was thinking I would do it. I can do it purple leather and be perfectly happy with it. It just won't be, like, weathered. And if we don't weather it, then it's not going to be, essentially, we're not texturing it. But again, like, if we were going to do, all right, guys, like, if we were going to do textures on this model, because my purpose in doing this mini was really to, like, go and do a big metallics piece for you guys. But if we were going to do, like, textures, I would not have chosen metallics. Because of, again, the fake and real quandary. Where the metallic is really shiny. And then we're trying to make fake effects on everything else. So, like, what I would do with leather if I was going for a real effect would be I would paint it, and then I would introduce a satin finish to it. So I'd probably actually do it pretty flat, but I would put a different finish on it. But I don't think that I like that as much as doing textures, like painted textures. I tend to like the fake effects. I like to have, to really be able to control the environment. Sorry, while I clean up said leather skirting here, I just noticed some stuff, so. But yeah, I mean, I wanna make it purple because I want to make it an accent color. I'm just not, and the weathering also is problematic because of the real versus fake. So I am inclined to go entirely away from a leather texture here and just make the purple, make it purple. Paint it purple, call it done. That's a very problematic place to get this mold line off of. It's hard to fit a knife in. There we go. Getting there. It's hard to fit a knife in, but using anything other than a knife on this material can be problematic. 1 second while I grip my diamond file and see if I can just push the edge here. We've got that little bit of plastic that's clinging. Files I find are not great on bones. They tend to leave a texture, but sometimes you can use them just to get one of those little clingy plastic things off of there. There, that's better. He's gonna have pleather. He's just gonna have, like, you know, vinyl. No texture, just vinyl. His maker was a goth girl wizard. She wanted the black vinyl look. But yeah, like, and I mean, you could ignore it and just decide that I'm going to do textures with metallics and fake lighting effects and all the rest of it. Just be aware, though, that there is definitely a point where the stuff you're trying to convey might not be successful because you have that metallic on there. Like, the metallic will really fight any other effects you try to put on there, as far as if you're trying to suggest fake effects. Like, if you're trying to create an illusion, but then you're also giving people the real deal, your illusion may be compromised, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. There we go. Can't believe, like, I go over these things for mold lines and then I end up missing a bunch of stuff because I'm going fast. The Ramsed one isn't too bad, though, because it's on this big flat surface. There. That would be more like the Space Marine dreadnoughts with the X person inside. I think probably, like, the point is that the mage throws this at the adventuring party while they escape. I doubt they want to actually be sitting on it, Valdar. And why do I have a rough spot over here? Grr, no rough spots allowed. No rough spots. And now I have to be careful of my paint job. There. I still haven't decided the color on this one down here, but I'm thinking maybe the scorched metal. I'm going to put another round of water around my scorched metal. Speaking of, you have to refresh that every once in a while if you don't want your metallics to stick. Hey, and it's time to stretch, which is good. My back has been kind of annoying me the last couple days. Probably moving stuff. I guess you could, Valandar. Yeah, I normally do that. I just don't, like, have a lot of time usually to sit and clean models before the stream. So I just try to pick off the stuff that I can. All right, I'm going to do a big stretch. But yeah, what you suggest is best practice, Pendrake, is what I'm going to suggest to people on my video. Although it doesn't always work, depending on how the model's been molded, but it is best practice. Just follow the line. All right, if you've been sitting for a long time and you feel like a break, get up and stretch. Grab yourself another cup of tea or coffee if you're Crowley. Yeah, we'll add in more. I'm going to throw more metallics on that. We'll mix up our copper, and then we'll, as we block in areas, I don't know, maybe I'll do your suggestion, Pendrake, for part of that skirting and make part of it black, or alternate black and purple, because it would be a lot of purple to do that entire skirt in it. So maybe I'll alternate. Or I'll put the black, put purple up top and black down lower. All right, I'm going to do some stretches on the floor, and I'll be right back. Alrighty. Remember to hydrate, everybody. Okay. Definitely allergies out here last couple days. It's that season. But yeah, I think maybe I like that black idea, Pendrake. Maybe I'll do that on the lower skirt fringe. That would also give me something to do to this area under the armpits that wouldn't be purple. So I could do a blue-black or something. Do a black and highlight it a little bit just to imply that there's like understructure. I don't know. Maybe I should just make it the dark, make it a really, really dark version of the scorched metal. Because, like, technically all of him is supposed to be bronze, I thought. But he's sculpted like he's got some, like, different understructure. I guess that could still be bronze. It's just, I don't know, Evergreen. The problem is the eyes are in shadow. And that means I can't do a glow effect. Like, see how dark it is? If you try to do a glow effect with that, then it's really, you're really fighting it, because the shadow cast by the fact that he's looking down makes it really hard to suggest a glow. Like, it really doesn't look right. So right now the eyes, jury is out. I don't know. Like, I may paint them like white and go over them with a really bright red, but leave it like way down in there. But it's likely not going to show up very well. That's the one thing I wish that this model didn't have, was that really shadowed face, because I could do some really cool hot glow effects if the head was further back. But I feel like it's just so shadowed. Like, you can see how dark it gets. So there's really not... putting a glow effect anywhere deep like that, where it's got a natural shadow over the top of it, really just tends to not work very well at all, because you're relying on like being able to suggest that bright white. And when you've got that area in shadow, you really can't do that. So yeah, I'm going to end up, it's probably going to be the last thing I do. I'm probably going to do the rest of the model and get to the face at the very end and see what I can do with it. And it may take a couple of repaints, to be honest. Shouldn't let it bug you, Crow. I mean, they're probably watching themselves. People must be accountable for their own happiness. You should be accountable for your happiness. It's a quest. I do get that feeling every once in a while. You just want to reach out and like help somebody. I totally get to it. I do get it. All right, I think we're going to go scorched metal here. And then I think I'm going to go copper around this little braid here. Like, or the bronze, sorry, around the braid here. But make this, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make this the scorched metal. And I might try to make this grid kind of a glowy grid. Like a hot grid. But again, we are under a shadow, so I'm not sure how well it'll work. So I'll have to think about that one. Yeah, this is a very complicated mini. There's going to be a lot of question marks. As far as what we want to do. I might cheat and make it glowy just at the ends. But we just gotta figure out what everything is. All right, that'll work for now. And let us get that bronze mixed up. So remember, we were using a mixture of ancient bronze. It's mostly ancient bronze. So it's 3 drops of ancient bronze. Ooh, I got a little bit of needed to shake that up better. Little bit of fluid in there. When that happens, you can either wipe out your well, or if it was only a little bit of fluid, I just double the recipe. 2 drops of 9051, which I made sure to shake adequately this time. And then just to give it that kind of washed out kind of bronze look, 1 drop of the 9100. $9,100 really is its own beast. Like, I made it. The reason that mithril is not the same and isn't to be used in the same way is because we already had a white metallic, and I had a hard time like educating people on how to use it and what it was for. So pearl white was always like really a low seller. It was often in danger of cancellation. So that's why I didn't do a repeat of it in bones. So mithril has that black in it, which makes it's a good highlighter, a relatively good highlighter for steel and stuff and such. But I actually find that even then that I like pearl white a little better for that. Pearl white has a bit more white in it, actual white pigment. So I just really feel that 9100 is the best highlighter for metallics, period. I'm going to grab my crappy base coating brush for this one, because I want to put this bronze all over the shoulder pads and stuff. Ooh, oh, I may have thinned it down a little bit much. Oh no! Oh well, 2 coats. Oh no, bubblies. You can tell you've thinned it down too much, and you're also... See the bubbles? You know why? This is a stiffer brush. It's not as soft as a Kolinsky. And I've thinned my paint. That's why it's bubbling. So usually you will only see bubbling if you are using a stiffer brush like a Taklon and thinner paint. And the way to get around it is either just push the bubbles off, break them up with your brush like I just did, or to blow on them. Yeah, it's too thin. I put, I think I had compromised my integrity by having a little bit of that fluid come out with the ancient bronze, but I'm just going to put 2 coats on. We'll let it dry. I'm going to thicken up. I'm going to do a separate mix. I mean, it's just another 2 coat thing. But it's just like any other base coat. If I did one that I felt was too thin, I'd just let it dry and put another coat over the top. Metallics actually can glob up detail, so, you know, if it doesn't annoy you too much, you can certainly use a thinner coat. Although it does obviously tend to settle out a bit, but it is shiny. It can be harder to spot when metallics are dry just because they are always shiny. But this one is starting to dry, so... You can see it's the same color as we got over here, though. So I've got a thicker version here. So this is why metallics are often better in the well palette and just don't thin them as much. I think I might have accidentally put a wet brush in there as well as my drop of water. And that's what got us. No, because that's like, it's like a wash. A lot of that is water. When it evaporates on a big detail like this, it's not gonna glob up detail. People always overestimate the chance of, see, and I didn't even thin this one that much, just a little bit, and I'm still getting a thinner coat and a bubbles. So, but yeah, I don't think on a big surface like that, if it was a really fine textured surface, if that was happening here, basement, then I would. But with these big features, like those big scales, it's not gonna fill in detail. Not just one coat. This is a crazy intricate beast, this guy. The fact that he's even got texture on like the back of his shoulder pad here is pretty cool. Yeah, I think a lot of painters get really paranoid about filling in detail, and rightfully so. Like if you have memories of being a kid and working with like testers enamels or over priming a model even when you were starting out with miniatures and kind of wrecking all the detail, because primers are very prone to that, and so are enamels. Then you can certainly be very paranoid about it. But in reality, I find, especially with large details like these, you're just not going to fill in the surface. I mean, the key is that this metallic is too thin, right? And if it's too thin, it's certainly not going to... Ooh, that's a nice detail too, guys. These swirlies back here, this is really cool. You're certainly not going to fill in detail that's as substantial as these scales with one coat. It may look kind of nerve-wracking, but it's not. Now with primers, those suckers you want to be very... If that was a primer, you bet absolutely I would be wicking all that off. If it was a brush-on primer. Primers are evil beasties that way. They definitely can fill in detail. Yeah, I really like the detailing in here on this shoulder. Like originally I liked the scales a little bit more, but now that I'm looking at these like little swirly patterns and stuff, these are going to be so much fun to weather and to bring out with details. Okay, that's the first coat. We can go over this guy now. So for the second coat on the shoulder, I'll go and brush it thin. I won't let it pool. Should only really take one layer of touch up to get it pretty solid. Sometimes it'll take a little more. Because metallics, they do tend to be a little bit translucent. But they're also, it's super quick to just brush another coat over the top. And since I'm using a really thin coat here, this will dry almost instantaneously. You can go back and kind of do some little touch-ups on these. Go back over to the other shoulder pad, and by that time that's done, I'll be able to even put a quick touch-up on the original. If you're doing a big guy like this, I mean, it's so easy. I mean, you just kind of go around it and touch up as needed. You're not really wasting time. I also need to do his helmet. The one thing that I've learned that I like to do with metallics, though, is that if I'm going to be doing any weathering of them at all, like verdigris or any of that, I really like to start as light colored as I can. So, like, if I went any lighter here, this wouldn't really look like bronze. So this is about as light and bright as I can start. Because I want there to be a lot of contrast when I start putting in shadows. So I want to have a long way to fall, pretty much. Like, I want to start really bright, so I have a long way to go down into my darkest shadows. And then I can bring it back up. I'll probably bring this guy, actually, to ReaperCon. Just the work in progress. There are a couple models I will. I mean, some of the ones I'm done, I'm going to bring to ReaperCon for Ron. So, like, Dwarf Guy and Herbalist, Living Statue. They'll sit out in front of me for the con, probably, and then Ron will steal them away. Or I'll take him to Reaper on Monday. But, you guys can see them if you're coming to ReaperCon. Yeah, there's just all this beautiful detail that we've got to go over. Yeah, I think it's going to take 3 coats to get a nice solid coat on this shoulder. And the other. This is going to be great, though, because there's all of these details can get, filled in with verdigris and darkened with age and stuff. It's going to be fun to do this. I need to figure out what colors we're going to use. Go looking at some bronze stuff. Probably need, like, my ancient oak and then somewhere like a really pasty minty green. Probably verdigris green. And then something in between. I'll have to look at my pictures of verdigris bronze. Decide what we want to do. That's getting pretty solid there. I'm going to do the inside. And then we can go and give this one a final polish across it. Across the top. Almost a dry brush just to hit the upper parts. Get it as shiny as we can get it. There, big, solid bronze shoulders. Sweet. But yeah, you can see once it's all filled in, it's like the welling and the cracks didn't really do anything other than give it a more solid base coat. So not bad. Yeah, definitely some allergies today. Got a frog in my throat for sure. Yeah, take a Benadryl. I have a bunch of packing to do this week. What do you guys have to do? Anything fun going on? Working? Hello, Kirby Derby. Nice to meet you. I'm Anne. I work for Reaper. And we do this show every morning. We do it with different minis, though. We trade out. We got a rotation of about six different models that we do. So this one is our bronze golem. We're starting the metallics, so we haven't done any shading or highlighting on the metals yet. Right now I'm just trying to get a nice solid coat with our mixed up bronze color. And that's probably, sadly, where we'll have to finish the show. And next time we do him, we'll have to bring in our shadows and mess around and get our shadows figured out. Oh, did you miss it? Yeah, we got a house. Like we're David and I are officially homeowners. We are moving in soon. We've started the moving process already, but I have to call movers over lunch and see how long we're gonna have to wait, and how we're gonna shoehorn this in between ReaperCon and our Hawaii vacation. Could be the dust from packing. That's a really good thought, Pendrake. It always hits me like that, and I always forget it. Because the dust is so fine, right? You don't really notice it at the time. You're just dusting off things and getting boxes out of the closet that you've never unpacked from the last move, and the dust does attack. This is true. You're probably correct. But there's no smoke yet. There's no fires by us here, so it's not... I don't think it's outdoors. Now, there is definitely stuff in the air here that I am slightly allergic to, so... And it tends to be seasonal. I've noticed it mostly in summer. But yeah. So yeah, now we have to... It's just trying to figure out where the move is going to fit in the middle of all of the rest of everything, really. And I want to make sure, of course, that I can still stream on Reaper every day. So we have to figure out our moving day and try to disrupt as little as possible. It is, like, not far from our current apartment, so it's very easy to move a lot of stuff over there ourselves. And just leave the heavy things, the big heavy things for the movers. Alright, that looks pretty solid. Pretty nice solid base. You want, when you're going for that light bright base coat on your metals so that you have a long way to weather down, you want to make sure, like this guy, you want to make sure you have a really solid start. So on this guy, we made sure we had a really, really solid gold, coppery gold base before we start doing any highlights or shadows. Because you don't want that starting color to be at all thin, or it might fail you at certain parts where you're thinking, I'm just going to leave the base coat color there because it's the mid-tone. So that's why we want to make sure we have a very nice, solid, even base coat. Everything we do from this point on, we don't want to have to go back and like say, oh, that base coat's really thin there and now it doesn't look good. It looks splotchy, right? You don't ever want to hit that. So you want a nice, solid base coat. Before I even started the weathering effects on Grumpy here, like, I had a rock solid, really pale silver base coat set down over the entire breastplate. So Very important to get a nice solid base on. You know, Kuriko, I'm cool with it. I really downsized when I moved out here to California to be with David last year. I downsized a lot, and I'm still like downsizing a little. I've added on, you know, Kickstarters of miniatures, but I've also, like, you know, gone through my book collection and, you know, a bunch of stuff that I was just hauling around that I haven't looked at. Essentially, my rule is becoming, if you haven't looked at it in 3 years, throw it out. Unless it's, you know, a documentation that you have to keep for some reason. But I'm getting less and less sentimentally inclined toward stuff. And so I actually feel like this is going to be a very easy move for me. Like, the biggest stress will be just making sure all David's stuff gets packed up by the time the movers come. And getting all the miniatures transferred over. We took one miniatures case over yesterday. So we're totally, like, all that stuff gets transported by us. Oh, multiple fish tanks. Oh my god, yeah. I have had that. That is a stressful move. You're right. Alright, I think we've got a pretty nice, solid... I needed this underpiece. See here? How it's darker? Yeah, this one needs more. So... Well, yeah, I'm probably almost inevitably, because they're gonna want to move us on a weekday, so I won't be able to schedule it necessarily over a weekend. We'll see. Like I said, I haven't called the moving companies that I have pinpointed as possibilities, so that's my job after I get off the stream here, is to take my walk and call some people, find out kind of what days are open. I assume I'm going to miss a couple of days, but I don't want to miss more than that. And it shouldn't really, like, because we're moving so much of our fragile stuff ourselves. So, ideally, we get set up pretty easily. Yeah, I hear you, Arcane Void. We really wanted a bigger place, and I really wanted a place I could have a puppy in, and this apartment complex is really not ideal. Like, they have a lot of breed restrictions, and we're on a second floor apartment that's far from grass, so having a puppy was just not going to happen. I really miss my old dog. I lost her, you know, over Christmas. So we decided, we were kind of in the market anyway for a bigger place, too, because we don't have any room here for stuff like, maybe a 3D resin printer, you know, stuff like that we'd be interested in maybe picking up at some point. So we were already in the market, and, like, really the perfect house came up, and... But I do understand the angst of just not wanting to move. Like, it can get very hard on you. I have been in that situation before. Yeah. So, but now we really love our new house. Like, if we could just, like, we wish we could magically snap our fingers and just be in it because we love it. We want to be there. So, we're going to try to Tempest Fugit and make this a very fast, rip the Band-Aid off, right? Move fast, rip the Band-Aid off. And then we won't, it'll be done before we know it, right? I'm just doing a little wet blend here to just make the metallics a little bit more solid on the sides of that. Got a little bit better of a solid coat there now. He's looking pretty cool, even just base coated. That's the nice thing about metallics, I guess. But it'll look even better once we throw some shadows on there. Yes, Kiri is very missed, but that's okay. I am already on the list for a Kiri great-great-granddaughter. Or grandson, depends on. The coat is more important than the sex, really. I would prefer a girl, but yes, we will have Kiri Mark II, or whatever her name ends up being. And this is where my connections with all the breeders in our breed come in handy, because I know everybody. I know everyone, and I know what their dogs are like, and I've met a lot of their dogs in person. And I've met a lot of their dogs' ancestors in person. Yeah, right. In the Federation, you just beam everything over to your new address. Yeah, don't you wish? Yeah, I'll have to get, I will be forced to get an actual puppy cam, Kerniko. I know, I'm already thinking I'll pick up a splitter and make my face cam do dual time with my puppy cam. So I will totally have the puppy in here while I'm streaming, so. Alrighty, we have a beautiful solid coat of bronze on this. That looks great. Fantastic. So next time what we're going to do is we'll get some, probably some dark browns and dark greens, because bronze goes both ways. You guys remember the bronze plaque picture that I showed you? Here, let me dig it up. I'm sure I can find it really quick. Pictures, please. All photos. This was back when we went to the Japanese gardens. Should be easy to find. Yeah. There we go. This is a beautiful picture of bronze. So this is one of the plaques at the Japanese gardens. And you can see the bronze, kind of the cold, like, kind of cold gold. Like, it's not a really warm yellowy, even where it's, like, really wearing off. So that fits with what we've done here, although this is looking, there we go. Now you can see it. So that color, if these were a little bit more rubbed off, they'd go more yellow. But then you can see how the bronze weathers to this beautiful kind of reddish color. And then it darkens down to brown. Like you can see the brown coming in here. And then it starts like in the places where the water is really pooling is where you get this green. And you get different, you can see that it has different shades of green, right? You can see that you've got a really dark green over here. And then you've also got like some middle greens here. And then this really pale green around the edges. So, yeah, I love the reddish bronze color that it gets when it's got a nice patina of oils. And this is just because people rub their fingers over it, you know, and it makes this beautiful patina. So, but stuff like this is fantastic to show you the color range because you can see the yellowish color, like here where people have rubbed this off. You can see that kind of golden, but it's definitely a washed out gold. It's not a really rich gold on bronze. Not when you look at real gold or even brass. Brass is pretty yellow. But then, you know, then it darkens down and it gets that reddish hue and, you know, it can do so many things. And the reddish hue is a lot from the copper. So is the green verdigris. So yeah, so we're going to be trying to do stuff like this on here. So we want to look at, a reddish coloration probably along with a dark brown. And then the dark green is going to be in the cracks and wherever moisture would pool, right? So we'll have to pay attention to which areas are in relief and which are sunken. And probably this entire shoulder pad, we're going to do green between these scales, which is going to be super fun. Maybe we'll use this as our kind of test and see like how it turns out. And we'll be using this photo as a reference a lot. So we'll keep some of our bronze a bit more yellowy, like a bit more the raised letters color, a bit more like the actual color when it's polished, and then we'll do some areas more dark and we'll bring in the verdigris. So yeah, that's the plan, folks. But you got to start bright to get there. It's really hard because metallics don't cover great. It's really hard to get that nice solid highlight unless you start with it and go down and keep some of it in your highlights already. Like that makes it so much easier. Going down and then up with metallics, I find to be a lot more easy. So yeah, so that's the plan with this guy. And maybe we'll change it up. Maybe we'll decide we really want a dark green skirt. Maybe I'll decide that I need the comb up here to be kind of dark green. Maybe we drop the purple. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to just kind of play it by ear like I do. Or maybe we'll do the black with like a purple highlight. Like do that. Do like a black area and just have a hint of purple and mostly go with kind of an orange and green kind of pattern. But yeah, doing a metallic bronze dragon in this kind of stuff would be nerve-wracking, would take forever, and would also look fantastic. So Yeah, I do a lot of that. You've seen it, Julie and Bob, right? Is like, I tend to follow my gut a lot. I really believe in following my gut. Whenever you're doing something artistic, I think it helps, is to develop that gut instinct and to just go with it. And sometimes it won't work out for you, and often it will. So, but yeah, so what we did today is we talked a bit again about the fake versus real quandary. We put some darker metallics over these dark strands on his chest and across our ram's head, which I think is helping actually the heat glow to work a little better with the metallics because we're integrating it a little bit more. We did a nice solid base on our metallics. We talked about what happens if they get too thin. We talked about multiple coats and why you want to do that. God, we haven't even tackled, look how intricate the back part is. We haven't even thought about it. Oh. We talked a bit about why it would be hard to do a glow effect on the face while it's in shadow. But yeah, we talked about all that. And we talked a little bit about digging and scratching up metallics and how I feel it works a little bit better on a big, broad surface. And it's a little harder or harder to get it to translate on something that's already intricately carved, but you can. So thanks, Danger Man. I appreciate it. It's hard to like think that way when I've just been base coating for most of this stream, but at least we have like finished Reaper and other models to demo the fact that we can do metallics, you know. So, hi guys, there we go, the Metallic Club. So there you go, guys. So what do we have coming up later today? Is Crow's Nest on for today? Yep, there we go. Oh, Jim Ludwig, good. Yay, Jim's always fun. Jim's entertaining. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. I am off to go and see about moving stuff. Tomorrow, our project is going to be back to the Crimson Herald, so our tentacly necromancer type dude. We'll be continuing on probably with tentacles and maybe the book. You guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.